Tonight, when your child asks you to leave the light on, you will probably say yes. You will think it is just a phase. Something they will grow out of. A quirk of childhood that has no real explanation. But the real answer is far stranger than you think. Because your child is not being irrational. Your child is not being dramatic. Your child's brain is doing something ancient, something deeply wired, something that kept our ancestors alive for hundreds of thousands of years, and it is doing it perfectly. The dark is not what your child fears. What your child fears is what the dark means. And that distinction will change everything you think you know about fear. Let's start with something most parents never consider. Your child's brain is not a small version of your brain. It is a different brain entirely. A brain in a completely different stage of construction. And one of the last systems to fully come online is the one responsible for separating real threats from imaginary ones. That system lives in the prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain responsible for rational thinking, planning, and emotional regulation. In adults, it acts like a filter. It receives a signal of fear, evaluates it, and decides whether it is worth acting on. It is why you can watch a horror movie and know you are safe. It is why you can hear a noise at night and conclude it is the house settling. In children, that filter does not yet exist. Neuroscientist Sarah Jane Blakemore, who has spent decades studying the developing brain, describes the prefrontal cortex as the last region of the brain to mature, a process that does not fully complete until a person reaches their mid-20s. In a young child, this region is barely online. It is scaffolding, not yet a building. So when the lights go out, your child's brain does not have a rational override. The fear signal fires. And nothing catches it. But here is where it gets even more interesting. Fear of the dark is not something children are taught. It is not something they pick up from television or from an older sibling's story. It is something they carry inside them, built into the architecture of the brain itself. Psychologist Arne Oman at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden spent years studying what he called biological preparedness, the idea that human beings are pre-wired to fear certain things, not because of personal experience, but because of evolutionary survival pressure. His research showed that humans develop fear responses to specific stimuli much faster and much more durably than others. Snakes. Heights. Darkness. Strangers. These are not learned fears. They are inherited ones. Think about what darkness meant for most of human history. For roughly 300,000 years, Homo sapiens lived without electricity, without streetlights, without the blue glow of a phone screen. When the sun went down, the world went completely dark. And in that darkness, predators moved. Lions, hyenas, leopards, they are all crepuscular or nocturnal hunters. The ones who came out after dark were the ones who were most dangerous. The humans who survived were the ones who were afraid at night. The ones who stayed near the fire. The ones whose brains fired a loud alarm when the light disappeared. The ones who were not afraid? They often did not survive long enough to pass their genes on. Your child's fear of the dark is not a flaw in their brain. It is proof that their brain is doing exactly what millions of years of evolution designed it to do. Now here is the part that most people miss. When your child says there is a monster under the bed, they are not making something up to avoid sleeping. They are reporting what their brain genuinely believes to be true. Because in the absence of the rational filter, that underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, the threat detection system runs unopposed. That system is called the amygdala. It sits deep in the brain, roughly the size and shape of an almond, and it is your brain's alarm center. It processes incoming signals and flags anything that looks dangerous. And crucially, it does not require evidence. It requires only uncertainty. Darkness is pure uncertainty. Your child cannot see what is in the corner. They cannot confirm that the shadow on the wall is just a coat on a chair. They cannot verify that the noise outside the window is just wind. And so the amygdala does what it was built to do. It assumes the worst. It prepares the body for a threat that may or may not exist. Joseph Ledoux, a neuroscientist at New York University who has spent his career mapping the fear circuitry of the brain, describes this as the low road of fear processing, a fast, automatic signal that bypasses conscious thought entirely. It does not ask for your permission. It does not wait for logic. It fires first and asks questions later. In your child, that low road is the only road. So when your child screams from their bedroom in the middle of the night, their body is in a genuine threat response. Heart rate elevated. Breathing fast. Muscles tensed. It is not a performance. It is biology. And this matters enormously for how you respond. Research in developmental psychology has consistently shown that the worst thing a parent can do is dismiss the fear as irrational. Not because honesty is wrong, but because the child's brain is not capable of using that logic yet. Saying there's nothing there, go back to sleep is like telling someone mid-panic attack to just calm down. The instruction is accurate. The brain cannot use it. What works instead is what psychologists call co-regulation, the process by which a calm adult nervous system literally helps a child's nervous system downregulate. Your calm presence in the dark is not just emotionally reassuring. It is neurologically regulating. It sends a signal through the child's brain that says, the threat has been assessed, and it is manageable. Over time, with enough of these moments, the child begins to build what researchers call a felt sense of safety, an internalized belief that the dark has been survived before, and can be survived again. But development cannot be rushed. A study published in the journal Behavior Research and Therapy found that fear of the dark peaks in children between the ages of 4 and 6, then gradually declines through middle childhood as the prefrontal cortex slowly begins to exert more control over the amygdala's threat signals. The fear does not disappear because children are told it is irrational. It fades because their brain grows into the ability to evaluate it. Some children take longer than others. And that variation is not about weakness or imagination or overprotective parenting. It is about the natural variation in neurological development. Some brains wire faster. Some take more time. Both are normal. Here is something even more striking. Fear of the dark does not vanish entirely in adults. It simply gets quieter. Studies have shown that a significant percentage of adults still experience elevated anxiety in the dark, they just have the cognitive tools to override it quickly, to recognize it for what it is, and to talk themselves down from the ledge. The amygdala still fires. The prefrontal cortex just catches it faster. And sometimes, in moments of extreme stress or exhaustion or isolation, even an adult's override system can fail. That strange feeling of unease in a dark parking garage. The way a completely dark room still makes your heart beat just slightly faster. That is not your imagination. That is your ancient brain, the same brain your child is running, reminding you that darkness was once genuinely dangerous. You and your child are afraid of the same thing. You just have more tools to manage it. So what does this mean for tonight? It means the nightlight is not a crutch. It means the open door is not a failure. It means sitting beside your child in the dark, breathing slowly, saying "I'm here, you're safe" is not reinforcing a bad habit. It is doing something neurologically precise. You are being the prefrontal cortex your child has not yet grown. You are lending your calm to a brain that cannot yet manufacture its own. And one day, not because you told them there is nothing to fear, but because their brain grew, and you were there while it grew, they will lie down in the dark and fall asleep without calling for you. Not because the fear was irrational. Because they finally have the tools to hold it. Tonight, when your child asks you to leave the light on, you will say yes. And now you will know exactly why that matters.